Afternoon. Welcome to the Public Works Committee meeting. I'm Councilmember Joe Buscaino. I'm joined by my colleagues Councilmember Price and Councilmember Cedillo. Today is Wednesday, August 7th, and welcome to you all. We are going to move along the program. I'm going to, out of the requests of Councilmember LaBonge, continue item number 3, unless we have any objections. No objections. Let's continue item 3. We do have one public comment card. I would like to take that now. For public comment? Okay, great. Let's take public comment now, and let's bring up Barry Johnson. Oh, I didn't see you mention. Barry? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Barry Johnson, Studio City Neighborhood Council Government Affairs Committee. I just wanted to bring to your attention that our board has sent a motion to Councilman Krikorian in an attempt to address the every time something new is built, the curb is widened, and we end up with streets like this that are a constant zigzag in and out of curb line. We have them all over the city, and this motion asks that dedications continue to be taken but not acted upon until an entire block the dedications are available on an entire block. It's really asinine to do it this way, because every place you end up here where it's indented in and out, you lose a parking spot. We have in one block, we have places where you lose 10 parking spots because of this. So I don't know if any of you have noticed this, but I drive all over the city in my job, and I see it everywhere. And I understand taking the dedication when you build something new, but acting upon it every other lot just makes us have a street that zigs in and out on the curb line, and we lose parking spaces because they paint it red every time there's the part where you're indenting in or out. So I just wanted to bring this to the attention of this committee, and the fact that our councilman is going to try and proceed to do something about it on our behalf and the city's behalf, for that matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Final public comment card goes to Jeff Jacobberg. Jeff, welcome. I'm sorry, this is item 3. Do we have we're going to continue item 3. Okay, sorry about that. Do we have another public comment? No. Okay, it's just 3, okay. So those on item 3, we're going to continue out of requests from Councilmember Tom LaBonge. With that, I'm going to approve items 4 and 6 on consent. Any objections, colleagues? No objections. Items will approve and send to council items 4 and 6. And Michael, let's go to, I see Councilmember Englander here. Let's take item number 5 first. If you can read that in, please.
Item number 5 is a joint report from the City Administrative Officer and the Chief Legislative Analyst relative to the Los Angeles Emergency Local Street Safety and Traffic Improvement Measure, as initiated by motion from Councilmembers Buscaino and Englander et al.
Thank you. I'm going to start this with open this up with a comment, and I see a number of our city family here, and of course Councilmember Englander to speak on this item. It's no secret that our streets are in failed condition. Nearly a third are failed or nearly failed and must be fully reconstructed at a cost of approximately $3 billion. Our poor streets cost LA drivers about $750 a year in additional maintenance, fuel consumption, and vehicle depreciation. This past January, as you all know, Councilmember Englander and I proposed a bond measure that will ultimately fix all our failed streets in Los Angeles over a period of 10 years. We initially proposed putting this before the voters in May on a ballot, but decided to hold off to take some time to hear from residents, business community, labor community, business owners, and neighbor council members and this is exactly what we did. We took this committee on the road across the city and heard from a number of constituents. We heard questions, comments, concerns. We also heard that this was a great idea, but let's listen. We need to know more. And Mitch and I went on this fact-finding mission, and I'd like to invite Councilmember Englander to the table to report and present the committee that he and I put together this report. And I also would like to have Dayton Arano from the CAO's office come up as well and speak to this item. Councilmember, welcome.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairman Buscaino and esteemed members of the committee. I appreciate all the focus and attention, and this has been a bumpy ride, to say the least, and we've only just begun. And just to correct the clerk, if I could, just for the record, the report is actually that we're asking for the committee's vote on to bring this to council is actually authored by the chairman and myself, not the CLA and the CAO. And I know that's rather unusual, but we've put a lot of time and effort into this as well, and there's several recommendations, and if I could just highlight and go through the items on the report and walk you through that and just be available for questions and comments, but it is lengthy, so if you can provide me that time, I do appreciate it. In January, as the chairman indicated, we introduced a motion to place a $3 billion street bond which is the general obligation bond on the May election ballot. The matter was continued to January 15th, and at which time the council adopted an amending motion by both of us, which requested the city attorney to propose and advise potential ballot language for a street repair and safety general obligation bond to be placed on some future ballot, yet to be determined. Number two, which was the most important element of this, was to refer the matter to the Public Works Committee to allow more time for study, debate, and most importantly, public input and outreach on the proposal. We had a lot of stakeholders, particularly neighborhood council members and the like, the budget advocates and others, that contacted us immediately and asked for a lot of input. This was one of the largest and probably most important infrastructure improvement proposals ever to come through the City of Los Angeles. The purpose of the report is to provide an update and a status report on the outreach initiatives undertaken in responses to the amending motion, as well as to request the public to solicit their input. In addition, this report includes instructions to departments for submission for additional information, and we'll get to that as well. The Public Works Committee, under the chairmanship of Councilman Buscaino, held 6 evening hearings devoted specifically to the subject of the Save Our Street LA proposal, or SOS. Los Angeles City Hall was one of them, the Harbor in San Pedro, the Valley, the West Side, and the LA Municipal Building. In the South, the Constituent Service Center, and East Side in Boyle Heights. At each of these meetings, the CAO and the CLA, the President of the Board of Public Works, the Director of Bureau of Street Services, city engineer, and their staff gave a complete and comprehensive presentation on the state of and the condition of our city streets, sources of potential funding, and what these sources are currently funding, and the concept of a 10-year work program to fix every single failed street and then maintain them in perpetuity. The public was invited to ask questions, voice their concerns and support for the program, and give input and ideas, and they did. And they came in force. Everyone in attendance wishing to speak to the committee was afforded the opportunity to do so. And speakers included individuals and representatives from various groups, including residents, property owners, renters, chambers of commerce, labor members, neighborhood councils, representatives from universities, members of the disabled community, cyclists, and environmentalists. The committee heard numerous issues of concern that these groups and individuals brought. The general issue and concerns presented can be summarized into the following categories: the cost burden and equity among recipients of the benefits, including other taxation and fee structures to fund the costs, unfairness of taxing property owners only, and transparency of the program and management and independent program oversight. Those are really the key areas, and we've broken them down into 26 different recommendations for studies and reports back, which we'll get into. We believe that these are the main issues that must be addressed before moving forward, with a potential plan to generate sufficient funding to complete the rebuilding of our failed streets. Types of projects to be included in the program, funding options, public oversight, and most importantly, transparency of the management of the SOSLA program to minimize the cost and maximize cooperation, transparency and efficiency among city departments, and the contractors to complete the work program on time and within budget. In addition, Councilmember Buscaino and I held numerous joint and individual meetings with representatives of neighborhood councils, chambers of commerce, labor organizations and businesses, cycle enthusiasts, environmentalists, academia, and pedestrians. Therefore, we are now prepared to present our outreach findings and ask the Council to vote on our instructions to the CAO and CLA to prepare a comprehensive report with 26 specific focal points based on the public's questions, ideas, and concerns. I'll run through them very quickly. In summary, we'd like the CAO and the CLA to report back with more detail on the funding requirement and potential funding options. One of the points we heard loud and clear is that the folks would like to see a diversified revenue stream, not just put 100% of this on the backs of property owners. Number 2, to provide a preliminary work plan that identifies D and F grade streets that would be eligible and include a preliminary construction schedule. Number 3, to provide a long-term pavement preservation plan to maintain streets in perpetuity in a minimum of B condition. Number 4, to report back on the feasibility of generating funding through taxing or charging fees on vehicle owners, such as local tax vehicle registration fees, local gas tax, or even tolls. Number 5, to report back on the availability of any federal or state grant programs that could potentially provide supplemental funding. Number 6, to report back on the feasibility of borrowing against future revenues to provide upfront funding so that the street repair work program may be completed in 10 years. Number 7, a report on long-term funding strategies to replace the ongoing decline of gas tax revenue and the loss of revenue from ARA and Prop 1B funds. Number 8, to report back on the recommendations for dedicating a portion of the future waste hauling franchise fee to repair streets and for street maintenance. Number 9, to report on the feasibility of amending the RSO to allow the pass-through of voter-approved property tax increases for the purpose of repairing streets and as part of the current comprehensive review that's going on as it relates to RSO. Number 10, to report back on the feasibility of using alternative paving materials capable of reflecting heat from sunlight, thus reducing the heat island, the effect created by asphalt. Number 11, to report back on the feasibility of using concrete in place of asphalt where appropriate. Number 12, to provide cost estimates and report back on the feasibility of including the following elements in the SOSLA program: sidewalk repair and alley construction and repair as well. Number 15, those were 13 and 14. 15, to report back on the recommendations for securing and structuring our Save Our Streets LA program to serve all road users, including motorists, transit users, cyclists, pedestrians, wheelchair users, children, and the elderly. A complete streets initiative. Number 16, to report back on the feasibility and potential locations for creating green streets, similar to the Elmer Avenue project in Council District 6. Number 17, to report on the best practices associated with Great Streets program, particularly in Washington, D.C., as well as potential funding sources, including one-time funding, that could be used to launch such a program in the City of L.A. Report on the potential to implement a Great Streets program in Los Angeles and next steps required to pursue such a program. Number 18, to report back on potential locations where underused streets or alleys may be vacated to reduce ongoing maintenance requirements. Number 19, report back on the pending state and federal legislation that could impact this program, including efforts to lower the required voter-approved threshold for infrastructure bonds, which we took up just this morning. Number 20, to report back on the recommendations on the structure of the Administrative Oversight Committee and a true Citizens Oversight Committee. Those would be made up of neighborhood councils, experts, industry experts, labor leaders outside the city, not just council members in the CLA and the CAO, but a true Citizens Oversight Committee. Number 21, to report back with recommendations for policies to structure development agreements to provide funding for needed street and alley repair and maintenance, as those proposals are going through planning. Number 22, to report back with recommendations for modifying the street damage restoration fee to increase funding for street repair and maintenance, and to incentivize utilities to better coordinate with the city. Number 23, to develop an RFQ to establish a list of qualified contractors eligible to perform work associated with the Save Our Streets initiative. All those would obviously fall under the Public Works Citywide Master Plan Project Labor Agreement as well. Number 24, to report back on the recommendations for procuring a new cloud-based public right-of-way activity coordination system. So we know exactly where and when and what streets will be done and when they'll be done, and it'll all be transparent and available to the public. Number 25, to report on the city's track record of delivering general obligation bond projects. We know we've done a lot. We want to see what we've done and where our strengths and weaknesses have come from. We also know full well that we've, in every particular bond initiative in the past, we've built every police station, fire station, animal shelter, all on time and under budget. We want a full list on how those objectives were reached and what came about. And finally, number 26, to report on the projected overall economic impact of the Save Our Street LA initiative, including but not limited to the following: private sector job creation, increased tax revenue, potential to decrease claims filed with the city for personal injury and damage to vehicles and other property, and the potential to reduce maintenance costs, the return on investment to the residents in the city of Los Angeles. So with that, I welcome any questions. I wanted, again, thank the chairman of this committee. This is one of the first things that immediately after he took office, jumped into head first and really pledged to work on citywide, realizing this is the biggest infrastructure issue that impacts each and every one of us, all Angelinos, every single day.
Thank you, Mr. Englander. And I've just been really pleased with working with your staff and our Monday morning conference calls. This is a huge infrastructure problem that we're facing, and I'm continuing to look forward with you in partnership in solving this problem. I just want to recognize the President of the Public Works Commission, Commissioner Kevin James, who's here alongside our city engineer, Gary Lee Moore, and the Director of Street Services, Nazario Salcedo. Thanks for being here. And I'm going to turn it over to questions. I do see a number of speaker cards on this issue, but I'm going to turn it over to colleagues who may have some questions, comments, concerns.
Yeah,
Mr. Price.
Yeah, let me just thank you both for your leadership on this really important question. It really is a quality of life issue. You know, certainly during the campaign, I was confronted by citizens wondering about the condition of the streets and the sidewalks and the alleys. The proposed bond would be for all three, correct, or is it just for the streets? Would it also include alleys and sidewalks?
So what we're looking at, first and foremost, we don't know that it would be just a bond. It would be a diversified pool of different revenue streams we're looking at. But with that, we're asking them to come back with a study, if it could possibly, and what that would cost. One of the issues we've run into, if it were just a bond, or if there was another revenue stream, is by law we have to have a very specific work plan, and we have to have it identified of exactly where it's going to happen. We don't have an inventory currently of the sidewalks, so that's an obstacle, if you will, that needs to be identified and figure out how do we overcome that.
Oh, my residents in the 9th can help you with that.
Exactly.
They got a running list.
But with that, as an example, and this came up a lot while we were out there on the street, and for the 10 years that I've been with the city, it's the number one issue that we get phone calls on are the conditions of our streets, consistently, outside of hot button issues. But having said that, a lot of folks say, hey, I can tell you where the broken sidewalks are. The difference between a sidewalk and a street, however, though, is a street is measured. Every single street through our pavement preservation program and through micropaver, which is a program we instilled in 1998. When we brought micropaver in, we actually measure every 3 years, every single street citywide. And we can tell you exactly what condition it's in, whether it needs to be a full reconstruction, a repave, or a slurry seal. And with that, though, we know what it would cost then to repair, replace every single street. With sidewalks, you can walk down a sidewalk, and while the sidewalk needs to be replaced, every single foot or every 10th foot or whatever that nth foot is, it's a different work plan because one part of the sidewalk needs to be cut down. Perhaps part of it needs to be replaced. Perhaps it's got root issues. Every single sidewalk has a different issue, and so it has a different price tag, and there isn't an inventory of those specific issues. We know, for example, where we've paid out slip and falls and other injuries, but we don't know exactly what the cost at those specific locations would be. That's what we're struggling with, but we're also asking for the report back to include that.
No, I think we will all look forward to that report back. I received from the Bureau of Street Services a very colorful map outlining the A, B, C, D conditions of the streets, and it was a very telling graphic. But it would be helpful to get a list of the D and F streets. I think would be very helpful, just to help bring home the point. It's certainly important to see it on a map, but when you see a list, I think it will be very helpful.
List of the name of streets that are in D and F condition.
I think that would be very...
They can easily pull that up, and Azariel's nodding his head.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Cedillo.
Same, just commend your leadership. As we all said, this was probably number one issue in our campaign. This and bulky items and trash. And I'll say to you that this is very imperative for us to create a better business climate, a better sense of the city.
Right.
But there's other aspects to this. This thing about sidewalks is a question of public safety. And as the population ages, right, so as we become more boomers, it becomes a more important factor. People becoming home-locked, homebound, whether or not they can leave their homes. As people get older, the access, the delivery of health care, these things all become interrelated. And whether or not people believe they can leave their homes and go out and have recreation. It's very critical as the city ages, as the state and nation ages, that we address this comprehensively. I mentioned to you, council member, it's been brought to my attention, concerns that there's equity and fairness in how this gets paid. And I think it's thoughtful to have a diversified financing strategy. I think we don't think enough about the prospects of utilizing locally a vehicle license fee for various needs that we have. And that we have to think about the considerations of people who commute to the city. And how do we make sure that everybody pays their fair share in this process. I applaud you.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo. Thank you, Mr. Englander. I know I called up David, but I think we're good unless my colleagues have questions to the CAO. Seeing none. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
With that, we have a series of cards here. I'm going to call you up one by one. And just keep in mind, you have a 2-minute public speaker time limit here for those joining us for the first time. Corrine Mendelblom. Corrine, welcome. She'll be followed by Barry Johnson.
Good afternoon.
I butchered your last name. My apologies.
No problem, Mandelbaum.
What is it for the record?
Mandelbaum.
Mendelbaum. Thank you, ma'am. Welcome.
Thanks. I work with the environment now, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the idea of our streets for a future, cool, green, and complete streets. For several years, I've worked on green streets with water utilities, city departments throughout California, and on occasion, I have spoken with leaders in other cities around the country about their examples and projects of green streets. And I want to give you a sense of what this green street looks like. It acts more like a sponge so that urban runoff actually gets captured as it moves through the city. It filters down into basins and aquifers and capture systems. And then it can be reused, oftentimes for outdoor irrigation. And you may know that half of our water demand goes to outdoor irrigation. So the EPA considers urban runoff the highest polluting source to our waterways, and they've made a priority of retrofitting streets through grants around the country and through guidance measures. And Philadelphia has taken advantage of this. I've spoken with their water utilities there, and they've managed to get grants in the form of $2.4 billion in bonds to spend on green streets over the next 25 years. This is a city of 1.5 million people and 134 miles squared. They found that by combining the green streets with other city projects, such as street repair, they cut their budgets by up to 90%. So they're spending 10% of what they would have on the runoff capture system by combining it with the other projects. Locally, we know that Bureau of Reclamation sees a great source of water supply in Los Angeles with this urban runoff. So I encourage you to work with the other departments. Thanks.
Thank you, Corinne. Barry Johnson, followed by Deborah Weinstein.
Barry Johnson, Studio City resident. I want to thank the chair and Councilman Englander for all the hard work you've done on this, and I think it was a great report to hear. One thing that concerns me is a parcel tax. I think most homeowners in this city are at a level of living paycheck to paycheck, if not a little better than that, and we already pay very high property taxes, and I don't think that burden should go to the homeowner in the effect of a parcel tax. And I guess I'm sort of curious, whatever happened to taking care of our roads with the taxes we're already taking in? I look at cities like Burbank, Culver City, even the city of Bell, and they have immaculate streets and sidewalks, yet somehow, over the course of time in LA, we've let it go. I just don't understand. And I'm guessing on a square mile per capita basis, we probably have a higher tax income than those cities do, yet we're not taking care of our streets and sidewalks with the taxes we're already taking in, and now we have to look for more. And what happens when this round is taken care of? We do all this fixing for $3 billion, and then 20, 30 years from now, I think we're going to be right back where we started before. So I think we need a longer-term fix than this. I did like the idea of concrete, though, because when you go to communities in this city from the 20s and earlier where there were concrete streets, those same concrete streets are still there today. They don't need to be repaved. So I guess the old saying, you get what you pay for, maybe is true, because concrete, I'm sure, costs more, but it lasts way longer. Thanks.
Thank you. Deborah? Deborah will be followed by Eric Bruins. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Deborah Weinstein. I am the policy director at Tree People. I'm here wearing two hats, one representing Tree People, and in case you aren't familiar with us, we're one of the largest environmental organizations in Los Angeles, and we're celebrating our 40th anniversary this year. But I'm also here representing the Green LA Coalition as one of its steering committee members. Both Green LA and Tree People are also part of the Streets for the Future effort supporting cool, green, and complete streets. We want to see any roads measure that's put forward work for the city and be successful. However, to be successful, we think you need to redefine what a, quote, failing street is. Yes, a failing street is one riddled with potholes, and we certainly all see that throughout the city. But it's also failing because of the numerous services streets should be providing but are not providing. And we as Angelenos are paying for these failures in numerous financial, social, and health-related ways. The services that I'm referring to include pedestrian safety, energy efficiency through cool streets, and community spaces. And one that you may not be familiar with, that actually Corinne just mentioned, is stormwater capture. By capturing our rainwater in properly designed streets, LA can reduce our imports of water, reduce water pollution, and reduce the risk of flooding, saving us millions of dollars and creating local jobs. Now you may think, okay, these are great ideas, but we can't afford to pay for these in a roads bond. However, I challenge you to lead LA away from this 20th century type of solution and into sustainable 21st century solutions. There are so many benefits that we can get from getting this right with our streets, and there are also many options for co-investment from entities that stand to benefit. For instance, even though this is a park example, there are examples in the city of LA, such as Sun Valley Park, where cross-jurisdictional agreements have leveraged resources to create sustainable and exemplary projects. In any case, we look forward to working with you, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Eric Bruins?
Yes. Good afternoon.
If I can bring up also Deborah Murphy. Deborah will follow Eric. Thank you.
Excellent. My name is Eric Bruins. I'm with the LA County Bicycle Coalition. And like the speaker before us, we are part of this Streets for the Future campaign, because essentially when we looked at the revenue stream we're creating, it's a 30-year stream. So the question we need to be asking ourselves is basically, what do the streets need to look like in 30 years when we're done paying off the bonds or other revenue source? And so I'm not going to repeat all the things that Deborah just said, but we wholeheartedly support the idea of cool, green, and complete streets. And we look forward to working with your staff to incorporate these into the measure.
Thank you, Eric. Ms. Murphy?
Good day.
Hold on real quick. I'm going to call up Michael Antos, who's next.
Great.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Deborah Murphy. I'm the Executive Director of Los Angeles Walks, a pedestrian advocacy organization. I serve as the City of LA Pedestrian Advisory Committee, not here representing them today. I'm a resident of CD13. Here to support cool, green, and complete streets. Streets, not roads, are the lifeblood of our city. It's where we get together. It's where we make place. It's where we gather to conduct commerce, to get to our jobs, our schools, to visit our friends, to get to restaurants, shops, and parks. We're all pedestrians. Or as Anthony Fox, our new head of US DOT, everyone is a pedestrian. Pedestrian trips in Los Angeles are over 25% of our trips, yet 40% of our crashes. So pedestrians are out there getting injured and killed, but we're not taking care of them. We need to address our entire right-of-way, our streets, not just our roads. We must build and repair our sidewalks, our disabled ramps. Today we're in violation of ADA all across our city, and we must fix that. We need shade with street trees. We need lighting to light our path. We need new materials to make our streets cool and green. Our streets are our outdoor living room. We wouldn't only repair the flooring in part of our house, we would want to repair all of it. We need to make our streets for the future of Los Angeles, not for the past of Los Angeles. We need to have a vision and move forward with a comprehensive and thoughtful plan to fix our streets and how to fund that takes care of everybody on foot, on a bus, on a bike, in a car. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael will be followed by David Fink. Good afternoon, Michael.
Good afternoon. I'm Mike Antos, the Programs Director at the Council for Watershed Health. We're the region's trusted hub for essential watershed research, analysis, and education. Our mission is to facilitate an inclusive consensus process to enhance the economic, social, and ecological health of the Los Angeles region. Council for Watershed Health is happy to be at the table with the Streets for the Future Coalition, where we are working together for great LA streets that are green, cool, and complete. Perhaps most emblematic of the opportunity we have before us is the Elmer Avenue Neighborhood Retrofit Project. Located in Sun Valley, Elmer Avenue was built by Department of Public Works in collaboration with my organization and our local, regional, state, federal government, academic, and nonprofit partners. The Elmer Avenue project adapted a degraded road that lacked lighting, sidewalks, and storm drains into a street that represents the future of Los Angeles. The Elmer Avenue project now captures up to 13 million gallons of water a year, keeping the stormwater-borne pollutants out of our streets and off our beaches, all while contributing to our local water supply. Elmer Avenue now has solar-only lighting, native plantings, and a pleasantly curvy sidewalk. Los Angeles has an award-winning integrated resources plan, is developing enhanced watershed management plans, and while LADWP is developing a stormwater capture master plan. In each case, the projects that implement these plans will rely heavily on the public streets. Our water resources challenges are intimately linked to our transportation network, and great future streets can yield cleaner, healthier, and more reliable local water. Elmer Avenue Project 2 stands as an example of how a transportation project can be bound together with a water project to the benefit of both missions. As this city responds to the new stormwater quality permit, a streets bond can be wedded, or street funding can be wedded to stormwater funding to assure that we are efficiently cost-sharing the construction of great streets that are green, blue, cool, and complete. I have some Elmer Avenue brochures that I'd like to pass around to
Please.
the three of you.
Thanks, Mike.
To you as well. And thank you very much.
Thank you. David Fink, followed by Gerald Wright. David, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is David Fink. I'm the Director of Campaigns for Climate Resolve, and we're here as part of the Streets for Our Future effort in support of cool, green, and complete streets. Our organization is a nonprofit environmental group focused on making Los Angeles a more livable and resilient city in the face of climate change. And the best science we have tells us that in the middle part of this century, the city is going to warm 4 to 5 degrees. And the number of extreme heat days, days of 95 degrees and above, are going to double, triple, and in some parts of the city, quadruple. So we know the city is going to get hotter, and the question is, what can we do to offset that heat? What can we do now to prepare? And one of the best tools we have is to alter our paved landscape. So as you know, right now we use a dark black asphalt when we pave or resurface streets. That surface absorbs 95% of the incoming solar radiant energy. And temperatures can get up to 140, 150, 160 degrees on that black surface. Cool paving materials, highly reflective materials, can reduce that temperature by 40 degrees and more. It can improve air quality, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, lower energy consumption, and ultimately reduce the urban heat island effect. So if we have an opportunity to alter the landscape of LA by using cool paving and other cool materials, shade trees, other green and complete streets measures, and we can literally offset that 4 to 5 degree warming if we alter the paved landscape of the city. Our organization has been working with the Bureau of Street Services and Lawrence Berkeley National Labs to develop materials that the city can use, and we would like to continue working with you on this.
Thanks so much, David. Mr. Wright, followed by Mark Help me out, brother. Valistrom?
Just come on down.
Oh, I see it. Come on down.
Okay.
Mr. Wright, welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. Gerard Wright, Move LA Policy Analyst, Coalition of the Business, Labor, and Environmental Organization that helped successfully pass Measure R in 2008. And just want to thank Councilmember Buscaino and Englander for their leadership on this matter. Recently, LA City voters supported Measure J with approximately 73% of the vote for transportation improvements. Developing streets of the future would be a lost opportunity if we do not take advantage of the efforts that are being taken place right now to enable complete streets programs for first and last mile connections to our growing Measure R transportation network. Making these street repairs with opportunities to make the streets cool, green, complete, as noted before, is a more cost-effective way to implement and develop great streets that connect all Angelenos together, whether they're pedestrian, cyclist, transit rider, or motorists throughout the city and the region. That will develop these streets of the future, connecting our neighborhoods and connecting each other. With that, thank you.
Thank you, Gerald. Mark, welcome. Give me your last name, sir.
It is Valianatos.
Good Italian name.
Close.
No? Greek. We're still related somewhere. Sorry, Mark.
No
Welcome.
problem.
Thank you.
So I'm Mark Valianatos. I'm a resident of CD1. I teach at Occidental College, teach classes on transportation and streets there. Steering committee member of LA Walks and Take Back the Boulevard. And so I'm really excited that LA is an opportunity to make world-class streets for the future. I look around the city and I see sort of the starting points of a lot of experimentation, a lot of cool things that are happening, from parklets to more bike lanes to bus-only lanes, BRT. A lot of good stuff is happening, but it still is against the landscape of decades and decades of trying to move lots of cars really fast, not caring about the implications for health, the environment, for people on bikes, walking, whatever. We all know the picture. And so it seems to me that this bond is an opportunity to really explode out those possibilities for all the streets, for all communities, for everyone, and make the city a better place to live. Look forward to being part of making that happen.
Thank you, sir. Okay, bringing up Jeff Chauberger and James Alamio.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Digberger. I'm the chair of the LA Bicycle Advisory Committee, but speaking on my own behalf today. It seems a little bit like we're getting ahead of ourselves, and I'd like to commend you and Councilman Englander for all your hard work, but the planning department is currently working on a mobility element that's supposed to be coming up with plans for our transportation system. And I'm not quite sure how we're supposed to know what we're supposed to fund in this bond measure until we know what the plans for the streets are going to be. for example, you talked about certain heavy-duty paving materials. Well, until we know which are our, transit priority streets that are going to be carrying very heavy buses, how do we know what sort of paving materials to propose for different streets? I'd also like to mention, from the bicyclist perspective, it's not simply a matter of having smooth pavement. We need to be protected from cars. The bicycle plan calls for a comprehensive bicycle-friendly street program that requires other treatments such as diverters, specially designed medians, traffic signals, et cetera, that will make our streets safe for bicyclists. Just to sort of drive home the point about how good pavement is not enough for bicyclists, through the Hollywood Hills today there are 40 travel lanes for motor vehicles, not 1 inch for bicyclists. From the bicyclist perspective, you can propose all the wonderful, smooth streets in the world, but unless you are, can make a serious commitment to make our streets bike friendly, where I can ride through the Cahuenga Pass without fearing I'm going to be killed, I'd be hard pressed to support a program. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. James?
Thank you, council members, for the opportunity to speak on this matter today. My name is James Alamio with Heal the Bay, and I want to echo the sentiment made by previous speakers about the approach that the city is taking in terms of looking at this from a multiple benefit approach, and that the failed streets, can no longer just be measured from an autocentric perspective, and that this failed streets need to consider a broad range of issues, and we applaud the city for taking that approach, because to this end, not only does it look at multiple benefits, but it also then begins to break up the fragmentation that we've seen either in services provided, in how departments are run. So looking for more collaboration from departments, I think this effort pushes that forward. And finally, as we talk about the potential multiple benefits, I really want to echo to the council, as we look at the reports that look at the cost-benefit analysis of this effort, that you really look at the benefits associated with, as you heard, stormwater, or the best management practices for stormwater, aesthetics for greening these streets in terms of the benefits derived to mental stability and all those that go to having a healthier community, and just looking at the work from public health departments of what greening our communities does, what calming traffic measures do, what biking, encouraging, all that, to take those benefits and actually incorporate them as we do the cost-benefit analysis in the future. So, applause. Thank you.
Thanks, James. And our final speaker, Malcolm Carson, I want to say. Welcome.
Hello, Commission. Thanks for letting me come in here at the last minute. I'm a policy director for environmental health at Community Health Councils, as well as a resident of the 10th District. And I just want to echo the call for Streets for the Future, cool, green, and complete. I think that this is an amazing opportunity. I mean, we've neglected to keep up our streets as we should, but that also has afforded us the opportunity to do something different and do something that's more relevant to the future that we're going to need these streets to work for. And the city's moving forward on multiple fronts to create streets that are that work better for the communities that live there. If it's commercial, if it's economic development, if it's health, if it's mobility. We have a lot of ideas that are percolating through the system, with the health element to the general plan, the mobility element to the general plan, community plan updates in a lot of our communities. Everything is moving towards rethinking how we use our streets and having them be reconfigured to be more amenable to a variety of uses, as opposed to just the maximum throughput of traffic as fast as possible. That's going to benefit us in all kinds of different ways. And all these ideas they're out there. They're gathering community support, and to have a vehicle like a bond that could provide funding to actually implement a lot of these, it could be transformative in terms of how our city looks and how our city operates in the future, and lay a great foundation for the Los Angeles of the coming years. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Malcolm. I want to say, I was just, the public comment and those who came forward today on item number 5, I just want to thank you. Oftentimes, if you visit our city council chambers during council meetings, we rarely get public comment that's so substantive. And that, whereas today, you're on the issue, you're well-versed, you're educated on fixing our streets, and I want to thank you. I know I speak on behalf of Mr. Englander as well. So thank you all for being here and sharing with us your comments and your concerns. I also want to recognize Mitch's predecessor, Councilmember Greg Smith, who once chaired this committee. And we owe it to Greg. He's been fighting for fixing our streets for many, many years. And I know, Mitch, you worked under his command, and to see you, moving forward and passing that baton from Greg to you, I'm just pleased to be a part of this movement and this effort. So with that, unless my colleagues have any other questions, comments, we're good. So a motion to approve this joint report and send it to council. Moved by Mr. Price, seconded by Mr. Cedillo. We will see you all on this specific item in a couple of weeks in council chambers, and hoping you all join us. And Mitch, I continue to look forward to working with you and also educating our colleagues on this critical issue facing the city. Thank you. Okay.
And as a clarification, we are going to approve all 14 recommendations that were submitted by you and also the council member Englander. And it's
I believe there are more than 14, weren't they?
Oh, sorry.
26, right? 20.
I have one that has 24 that's been uploaded to the council file.
Okay.
Do you have an updated version?
That's the one. Yes. 24.
So 24
recommendations. Yes. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Very good. Okay. Our next item. Let's take item number 1. If you can read that into the record.
Item number 1 is a report from the Bureau of Engineering relative to a vacation of an alley northeasterly of Chavez Avenue between State Street and the Golden State Freeway.
Very good. I do have representative from Council District 14 here. Kevin?
Yes.
Welcome. Just for the record, your name, please.
Sure. Kevin Acabio on behalf of Councilmember Jose Huizar. And there were just a few...
There's a couple changes from Mr.
Yeah,
Huizar?
just a couple changes that to the report that we would like to support. And specifically, we would like to delete recommendation B to the report. And also condition number 5. And these two sort of work in tandem to dedicate 5 feet for a public roadway that is sort of deemed not needed, as there is already existing a 12-foot sidewalk adjacent to that. The other condition would be to delete on condition 7, requesting consent of the adjacent property owner, and the property owner actually is the applicant, as he will be developing the entire site. And engineering is here as well, if you have any questions.
Mr., you have any issues with these suggestions, these recommendations from CD14?
Good afternoon, Edmund Yu from Public Works Engineering. Yeah, we have worked with closely with Council District 14, and we have no objection to those changes.
Very good. Get a motion to approve this item? Moved by Mr. Cedillo, seconded by Mr. Price. So let's approve item number 1 as amended. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 2.
Item number 2 is the report from the Bureau of Engineering relative to the vacation of an alley southwesterly of La Loma Road from 233 feet southeasterly of Genevieve Avenue to the southeasterly terminus.
Okay. Kevin, you want to speak for CD14 again?
Sure. Hello again. So we've been working with the applicant and the neighborhood council and have drafted a list of sort of additional conditions. One of them would be to amend, to add an improvement to the Bureau of Engineering's report, and also some additional conditions. And this as well has been sort of thought through by BOE, and he's here to answer any questions.
It's you?
Yeah, again, Edmund Yu from the Bureau of Engineering. Yeah, we have also on this one have been working closely with Council District 14, and we have seen what the Council Office recommendation, and we recommend the the committees to include that as part of the approval.
Okay, I do have one card. Fred, do you want to speak on this? Fred Gaines, right?
Yes. Thank you, honorable members. Fred Gaines of Gaines and Stacy on behalf of Vaughn Stores. We have worked cooperatively with the Council Office and agree with the recommendation, including the additional conditions that Council Office shared with us today. So we ask for your support. I'd like to move forward with this project.
Very good.
Thanks.
Colleagues, any questions? So moved. Moved by Mr. Cedillo, seconded by Mr. Price. Let's approve item number 2 as amended. Thank you, Fred.
And just for the record, it's quite lengthy, but we will have a copy that I will upload to the council file.
Very good. Thank you, Michael.
We can have this in council. Let's see. We're looking at August 20th.
Okay, our final item, item number 7.
Item number 7 is a motion from Council Members Huizar and Buscaino relative to the pilot program allowing a temporary permit process to expedite the legal placement of sidewalk dining and storefront furniture within the historic core area of downtown Los Angeles.
Okay, I have one card, Sarah Hernandez from CD14. Is Sarah still here? Okay. We have anyone here from staff to report on this, item number 7?
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Richard Liu with the Bureau of Engineering. Staff has been working closely with CD14 on this report, and they will be ready for the next committee meeting.
Okay. Sarah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Sarah Hernandez, Downtown Area Director with the Councilman. As many of you know, downtown's undergoing a massive revitalization. In the past 10 years, we've added 93,000 jobs. About $15.7 billion have been invested. We have over 200 bars, restaurants, retail, nightlife, amenities in the area with over 50,000 residents that can utilize those amenities. This is a far different scene in downtown than we saw 10 years ago. And because of that, it's the council member's priority and it's his commitment to really continue this revitalization effort and to make sure that our streets are cleaner, that they're safer, more vibrant, and generally just more of a better ambiance. And because of that, and because of when you walk down Spring Street, Main Street, you see many of these businesses have utilized their outside dining. We're looking for a way to create an enabling measure that will promote this type of street dining and really just streamline the process so that there are some very clear-cut guidelines that make it easier for businesses to engage in this type of activity. So we've been working pretty closely with BOE, and we look forward to continue to do that, to make a process that streamlines the ability to get a permit. In essence, almost creating a by right, subject to certain conditions, liability measures, and whatnot.
Okay. All right, if no objections, we're going to hold this item in committee and instruct BOE and Bureau of Street Services to work collectively with CD14 and come back with the written report within the next 30 days. Is that good? What meeting would that be on, Michael?
Our next scheduled meeting is August 21st.
21st, you want?
Yeah, that's fine.
Would that be good for you?
That'll be fine.
Okay. So we'll see this item, hear it again on the 21st. Thank you. Okay. With that, we already fulfilled our general public comment. Thank you, colleagues, for being here. And with that, we like to adjourn the Public Works and Gang Reduction Committee. I introed this as only a Public Works Committee, Kevin. It's actually Public Works and Gang Reduction Committee. So with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.